Despite what you've heard, running events is expensive. So today I'm breaking down the real cost of what it takes to put on a music event in 2025. So for some context, I've been running music events, predominantly rave house music events, for just over 2 years. But I've also been running events for a long period of time, different bits in corporate. But I'm finally going to share the actual cost behind it, because I really don't think people understand the true cost to running an event. Plus, I'm also going to be sharing some actual real life examples and some P&Ls from the events that I've been running. So you can actually see that I'm not lying. There's legit proof behind this. But just quickly before I jump into it, if you can, give the video a thumbs up. We all know it helps the algo. Helps the algo. Let's get that algo boosting. Let's get it boosting. And at the end of the video, if you do really enjoy it, hit subscribe, because you know what? It helps the channel grow, and it means we can do more fun stuff like this. And you just get information. I'm here to give value. But enough of me jabbering. Let's get into it. Okay, so the cost of running events. Now, I feel like there's two different sides. Some people understand that it does cost a lot, and there's some people who think, nah, it doesn't cost that much. You promoters are making all the dough. And only a very few are actually making really good money from it. And it is a very tough industry at the minute, especially considering that people have got less money in order to spend on going out and doing nice things, and the cost of everything is going up, and that has of course directly impacted the promoter and people who are putting on events. So actual cost breakdown of events. What are the things that realistically you need to pay for? Well, you've got venue hire, you've got artists and DJs, you've got your marketing, you've got your content, you've got the production, you've got your staffing, you've got potentially insurance, and you've also got loads of little extras that pop up that people often forget about, but can sometimes end up being 500, 600, even £1,000 or more. Okay, so let's talk about venue hire. Now, obviously, this is completely dependent on, obviously, the size of the nightclub, the location, how much experience, how much often goes on there, is there a natural demand for the venue, etc. But typically nowadays, especially in the UK, you're pretty much looking at a minimum of £1,000 for a hire. Now, this can vary. If it's a smaller nightclub, it might be a little bit less, but in general, as a general blanket, you're looking at about £1,000 as a minimum. Now, sometimes you can get this back, or whether that's on bar take, amount of people in the door. There's lots of different deals that you can work with venue once you've built a relationship there, or if you say have a very successful brand and you sort of have a little bit of a leverage. It all comes down to who has sort of the leverage in that situation. Does the brand need that venue, or does the venue sort of need that brand? It sort of depends really, and it's up to yourself to work out that leverage between it. We have seen some venue fees that can go all the way up to like £5,000 or more, depending on the size, the capacity. Was it a peak night? Was there lots of demand on that date? Have we almost had to outbid somebody for that date? These prices can really go up. The venue from their side of things, obviously costings have gone up a lot, so everything's just costing a lot more money. Now, once you've got your venue locked in, obviously you need artists or DJs. Now, in reality, everybody would love to just book their mates and fill out a 600 to 1,000 capacity nightclub, but unfortunately that isn't happening. Now, some brands have really invested, over a long period of time, and they're able to sell out large venues just based purely on the brand. And, a couple of names are like their residents, but it's very rare that this happens. So 9 times out of 10, a promoter is going to be booking a big act in order to pull the punters in, because unfortunately, in this current climate, people are very, picky on what they spend their money on, and they'd much rather spend a little bit more money and go see a bigger act who they might not often get to see, rather than just go and support the local talent. As bad as it is, unfortunately, that's just how it is. So realistically, if we just say use an 800 capacity nightclub as an example, you are going to have to spend about £5,000 to get a good artist to come in there. Artist fees at the moment are... they're crazy. They are so expensive, and there's big discussions on who's to blame here. Is it the artist pushing the fee up? Is it the agents pushing the fee up? But ultimately, artist fees are just absolutely sky high at the minute. And the problem is that a lot of the artists aren't selling their value worth in tickets. So, if you're getting a £5,000 act, it might be that £5,000 act is not selling £5,000 worth of tickets. And ultimately, that's what you want. You're booking someone in order to sell the tickets. That's the whole reason you're booking them. But with this, it's not just £5,000. You've then got extra fees on top. So, you'll have your VAT, your tax. You've got to pay for their travel, their accommodation, the booking fees with the agent. All of this stuff just adds up. So realistically, a £5,000 booking is ultimately going to end up being probably about 6.5, 7 grand. And even if you're not booking a headliner and you're still getting other DJs, I personally think that, if you can, try and pay your DJs, because I just think it's good nature to do it. There are some scenarios where people may not want to, or if it's other people involved in the brand, but I really do think if you can pay your DJs, You should, because people will value it a lot more. So even if you're doing that method, you're probably still going to be spending about 500 on that. So you've got your venue, you've got your artists, and then it comes down to marketing. You've got to market the event. Now, of course, you need a flyer made. One way to save money on this is you do it all yourself. But if you don't know how to design, how to make, announcement videos, you're going to have to pay somebody to do that. That's going to be a couple of hundred, paying someone to do a flyer, paying someone to make a promo video. All of this stuff costs money. Then once you've launched, we all know organic growth on social media is so tough at the minute, and it is not getting any easier. So realistically, if you want to sell, let's say that 800 capacity out, you're going to have to run some form of ads. So then you're running ads, you're running whether it's on Facebook, TikTok, Snapchat. You're going to have to run that in order to reach more people, in order to get the awareness out there, because the organic reach is so small. Now, on some of the events, we've spent, £2,000 plus on just advertisements. Like, it's really crazy. And obviously it works in a model. If you can get the ads to work, the more you spend, effectively, the more you make. But you still have to front that cash. You still have to, get them ads working, and ads are not easy. Even I know some of the most experienced people still have struggles every single day. Then you got to look at content. So let's say, you sell all the tickets. Well, you need to make sure that you get some good content. You're going to have to get a photographer in, get a videographer in, because content is king. Once you've got that good party, you then want content that's all then going to help you sell the next event. Content is king. It shows social proof to people. It shows that if they didn't go, damn, I missed out, I should have been there. It's the people who did go, it triggers their memory to be like, oh yeah, that was a fantastic night. We need to go again next time they do an event. Content is so key, and I think it's crazy when people will put on an incredible event and they just forget about content. Like, we've done it. We've made the mistake where we've had a really good event and we didn't invest in a videographer, and it has kicked us, and we have paid for it over multiple years, where we've then come to do like a certain type of event similar to that, and we didn't have any content from it. Content is so key. Even if you're running around with a phone, at least do that. Run around with your phone and get as many photos and videos as possible. Then you've got production. Now, some venues you go in and everything's there. You don't have to worry about it. However, some venues require extra sound. They might require extra lights. You might want to go in and make your mark on the club. You might want to make it an experience. Us personally, we probably spend the most amount of money outside of acts. Well, actually, even not including the acts, we spend so much money on production in terms of making it our own night. So bringing in extra sound, bringing in extra lights, making it a true experience, bringing in decorations, like branding. We really make it so that when people come in there, they're like, wow, like this is different. We've not experienced this before. Production is so key. And the punter may not know exactly, what's triggering or what is different, like pinpoint it, but subconsciously it's having an effect. Honestly, so important. And it can really like make or break a night. I've seen events that have like completely sold out and they've not put any effort into production, and it shows, and the punters have then started to complain about it. It is so important. Then you got stuff like staffing. Do you need to get cloakroom staff? Do you need to get ticket scanning staff? Are the venue providing that? Some venues don't provide that. So you then need to go out and get that. It can still add up. If you need 2, 3, 4 staff, you're then looking at a couple of £100 in just staffing costs. Then you got insurance. If you go onto a larger scale event, you need to be looking at insurance, especially if you get an extra production in and stuff like this. You want to make sure you're covered in the circumstance where something goes wrong. This can be a couple of £100. We did an event, a 1,000 cap event, where our insurance was like £200, and we didn't realize it was going to be that much, and we were on a very tight P&L. And then you've got just extras, stuff that just pops up, stuff you have to pay for, your email marketing, your text outs, like just so many little bits. If you need to do a B&Q run, grab some bits, or a Home Depot run, like having that extras there, that can sometimes range from £5 to £7 to £1,000. Like, it adds up so quickly. And I probably hear it. There's some people saying, well, you know what? You don't need to spend all that. You could just go get a venue for 200-300 quid. And you know what? Yeah, you could. You absolutely could. And you could just get your friends on it, throw the lineup. And that's how a lot of brands start. But in order, once a brand starts growing and you want to get them bigger numbers and then bigger capacities, you have to spend money to make money. That is just unfortunately how the world is. And the events industry is no different. So enough of me explaining it. Let's actually go into some real life examples. Okay, so this is actually a P&L from a small event I did. It was about 400 people. And I'm just going to run through the cost so you can sort of see what this costs. In this event, you can actually see here, I made a loss. I made a loss of £424, but the event sold out. So the event sold out and I still made a loss. And I'll explain why when I go through it. So kickstarting off. the venue fee would come in at £500. Now, this venue fee was actually higher before. I had a deal with a bar, whereas basically it was done on kickback, done on bar spend, etc. Now, this would have been less, but I didn't hit the required bar spend that I'd hoped. And this is another thing that you have to consider. Like, if you're on that sort of deal with a bar spend with a venue, and you're getting a kickback on your venue fee from a certain amount of bar spend hit, you're then hoping that people come in and they spend the money, and that's completely out of your control. But it can also save you a lot of money as well on the event, but it's something that you won't know until after the event. Then we go into marketing. So looking here, we got Facebook ads, £477, let's say 480, Snapchat ads, £206. Basically, I was just switching between the two sort of platforms, seeing what was working, see what wasn't. My actual budget was originally 500 total, and I ended up spending more because tickets just weren't shifting. The time of event when this event was quite tough. I've never really done an event in that period, and it was a lot more challenging than I thought. Next thing we got is text outs. Text outs are really quite powerful for us, you know, in terms of the amount of people that you can reach, basically contacting old customers. So obviously we have the data from where they've bought previously bought tickets before. They've opted into marketing. We then basically can send a text out to them anytime that, you know, we have a new event or information. Really powerful in terms of, like, you know, we spend £130, and if we just sell a couple of tickets off that, we're going to pay it back. It's also the exposure. I think it's something like 89% of like marketing messages get opened, where emails, like, we have about email open rates of about 30 to 40%, which is really good for the industry, but a lot of people have way less, like under 10% open rates. It's crazy. Now on this show, production was actually 0, which is very rare. And actually, no, I lie. Production was 70. I've doubled it up here by mistake. But in terms of adding extra sound, extra lights in, the venue actually had all of this with it. They had their technicians. It was included in the venue fee, which is another thing. You might have some venues where you have a venue fee and then you still need to provide production on top, or you're maybe not happy with the production that's in the venue. You might have it where the production, you know, you pay the venue fee or you pay a higher venue fee and they've got everything there that you need. Like, that's an ideal world. That's perfect. But of course, as I said, we like to go in, add our extra stamp on things. Then we've got media. This was a photographer off the top of my head. I also had a videographer as well. Yeah, I added a videographer in. So total, these two here, media, £400 on media. Because regardless, I was like, I need content, especially once I knew that the event had hit that point where it was going to be busy regardless. I wanted to make sure that I had the content so that I could utilize it down the road. TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, etc. Riders. If you don't know what riders is, this is basically the thing that you have to buy. You have a tech rider, which is like all of the decks, the equipment you have to provide when you're booking an artist. And you then basically have a hospitality rider. So it's all their drinks, their food, etc. It's part of the contract. It's just literally what you have to do. So yeah, that was 160 quid. And this was actually quite low for the event. We've had some events where this rider was like crazy figures, like just stupid figures. And unfortunately, it just has to be done. But it's little fees like this that you just forget about. And that can be the difference between, you know, your make or break. Production, the 70, I know what that was. That was just an extra mixer that we had to get because part of the technical rider was that we had to provide a certain type of mixer. So that's what we did. Box office staff, as I mentioned originally, you needed people in order to scan in. We use our own box office staff. So, you know, we had them, you know, I think we had like we have merchandise as well, so they were selling merch for us. Then in general, flags, wristbands, decor, stuff like we have branded wristbands. This is all little extras, but it's stuff that we feel makes the night. So we have branded wristbands, we have decorations in the club. I had flags that were hanging. You know, it makes a difference. Like, it's branding, it's just adding something different to the venue. It's putting our mark on it. So when people turn up, they know it's our event. DJs, 1,400. So this was to do the whole DJ lineup, a couple of headliners, support was 1,400 quid. Obviously, that's a big chunk of the top cost, but that's needed in order to sell the tickets to get the punters in. I put on a good lineup so people know that it's going to be a good event and they come in. But then you've got extra stuff. Artist driver, we have got to pay for the travel for the artist. You know, we have to book a driver. We've got someone for that. Then we have to pay for the train. Then you've got hotels, £200 in hotels. You know, already if you include the DJs and the travel and everything, you're at, you know, 1,600 quid already, plus more than that. Like, it adds up super quickly. And then of course you got that last media thing. So that brought the total amount for that event for £3,813. This was about a 400 capacity event. And my whole purpose for this event was to do a really low ticket sale. And it sort of bit me in the arse in a way because, yeah, total Skiddle sales come in at £3,349.30. We sold basically hardly any merch. 39 quid's worth of merch, bringing the total income to £3,388 at 58 pence, meaning that we made a loss of £424.53. Like, And the event was basically sold out. We did give away a lot of guest list to like influencers and stuff like that to try and get them down because the event was struggling during the promo run. But, you know, we paid the price for that. And unfortunately on the day, the tickets, you know, because it was a late market, I think I did like 50% of the tickets in like the last 48 hours, which is so hard when you're trying to plan a business model and like plan, like, is a venue going to be busy? Is it not? I'm like having discussions with the venue. I'm like, I don't know. Like it's really, really tough. Then to quickly look at a larger sort of event, we've got here, you know, venue, £2,500. Yeah, this stuff adds up quickly. You know, it was a much larger venue, bigger capacity, Facebook ads, Snapchat ads. We did nearly £1,800 on just Facebook advertisements. It was a big event. We wanted to get it out there. Without that, we wouldn't have sold the amount of tickets that we did. We needed to get the exposure in order to do them tickets. Same with text outs, doing multiple text outs, you know, nearly £600. You know, getting it out there, getting the message out there, doing the big promo run. Lighting jock, we spent, as you'll see here, £8,000 on production. That's money that we didn't have to spend. So warranted, you don't have to spend this money, but we spent £8,000 of our own money that we did not need to spend in order to make sure that this night was extra special. If we had not done that, we would have made a lot more profit. As you'll see here, look, not that off. We would have made 11 grand profit. But, you know, we didn't. We wanted to make sure the night was super, super special. We always put customer experience first. I think it's so important. Yes, you're playing a longer game and it costs more money up front. But if you can build a solid brand, you'll then build customers that keep on returning and returning. So yeah, you got the production there that in order to control all the lights, you know, just getting a custom light jockey in, that was 600 quid. You know, then moving down to media, it's a larger show. It means we need more videographers, more photographers because content is so important. We get a lot of our content go viral on TikTok. So for us, it's worth the investment. So, you know, 1,600 quid just on media. Riders, again, covering, you know, hospitality and so on. 362 quid. You know, it just adds up. Then you got stuff like door staff, your ticketing staff, you know, that cost extra 130 quid. Then our decor, that was 250 or 240. You know, the designer, then we've got that, you know, then you've got the hotels, £400 in hotels because it's not just the artists. We've then got all these extra videographers and crew and photographers. They all need somewhere to stay because they're, you know, we like to get good stuff, and unfortunately where we are based, we don't have the best pool of creatives near us. Food and emails here. So, you know, just food on the day, you know, when we're all setting up, we're building, you know, we do a lot of the graft ourselves. This £8,000 in production, we're there setting it up. We, you know, we're not just saying, oh yeah, all good. Like, we're there setting it up, putting the effort in, making sure everything's right, adding all the details. The details matter to us. Anyway, I said we could just do it on a money grab, but we choose not to do that because we like to build longevity with it and build a solid brand. Then, you know, in general, headliners. So we spent here, £6,500 on headliners because we wanted really, really good names in order to come in and help sell the event. You know, we wouldn't be able to sell the amount of tickets. This was over 1,000 capacity show. We wouldn't be able to sell that amount of tickets with just our names alone. We wanted to bring in good names from the industry and just, you know, really put on a great event. Event insurance, as I mentioned earlier, this came in £174. We're putting in extra production. You've got to make sure you're covered in terms of an insurance basis because all it takes is one person to trip, something to happen, and then you're stuck. You know, especially it's not so bad in the UK with people suing, but I know in America people are very, very prone for suing. So you just want to make sure you get that insurance. This was actually before we'd got like a new sort of annual one. If you know you're going to be doing a big amount of events, try and get an annual plan because you'll save a lot of money. But this one was just a purpose built for that event. Then on top here, you got artist travel, you know, £106 there, artist liaison, someone to look after the act because we realised very quickly it's a lot easier for us to pay someone to, you know, be there, be almost like an assistant for the artist, you know, make sure their taxis are sorted, make sure they're picked up, make sure their drinks are ready and all that stuff. So we then don't have to worry about that and we can focus on the event and make sure, you know, while we're obviously DJing as well, we're not having that worry in the back of our heads like, oh my God, has the artist been picked up? And then you're even here, just incidentals. You've got £110 in incidentals, you know, B&Q, Argos, extra things that we needed to buy to make the event happen. And this brought the total event costings in for about £24,000, give or take. And off the back of that, we sold £26,615. And then we sold a little bit on the day in terms of like, just like, again, merchandise, etc. And that brought the total income to 27,000, meaning that we made a profit of 3,681. Now, people are probably looking at that thinking, oh, great, brilliant, you made some money. And that is a very, very good profit and it's fantastic. But as I said, if we hadn't spent the production, it would have been a lot higher. But we feel that if we hadn't spent that on the production, we then wouldn't be able to, you know, build out the customer experience that we wanted to create. It would just be an empty room. It would be the same as any other brand going into that club and putting that show on. And we don't want to be that. We want to be something different. We want to go that extra effort. We want to make that extra effort so that the customer ultimately has a better time. They're like, wow, that is unbelievable. Like, we can't wait to go back. So as you can see from them examples there, events can just get crazy, crazy expensive. But you know, there are options where you can just do it super cheap. You know, you can go get a venue super cheap, just you and your mates, and you know, you get 100 people in there. That's brilliant. And then, you know, you can then keep planning and keep moving forward. And the problem is that when you have brands, you know, say like ourselves, that want to put on these larger scale events, you know, it costs a lot of money to put on. You've seen there that event over 1,000 cap cost us 23 grand to put on. That's 23 grand worth of expenses before we've sold a single ticket. We then have to work out and judge the market. Okay, well, whereabouts can we put the ticket price? We need to do it so that we can make some profit. And the profit isn't just so we can go, oh yeah, brilliant, yeah, let's go buy Lambos. No, it's so that we can then reinvest back into the future events so we can keep growing the brand. You know, we want the brand to get to the stage where it can be doing, you know, 2-day festivals, you know, it can be this big thing, it can be in other countries. And in order to do that, you need money in order to make it work. And the big problem is that when these events cost this much, that then basically gets reflected on the ticket price. So you're in a constant juggling match of, okay, how much can we charge where it's, you know, suitable and we feel like the customer's actually getting this value worth, but also it's at a point where, you know, it works for us in terms of break evens, because you don't want it where your break even's going to be, you know, 1,000 tickets on, say, a 1,500 capacity nightclub, because that's really, really tough to sell 1,000 tickets in this day and age. If you know that the club only needs 800 to be busy, ideally you want your break even to be about that maybe 700-800 mark. So you know that, you know, the club's busy, good, you've made money. Worst case scenario, it looks busy, it's good, you made some money back, you haven't lost money on it. And there's different types of promoters out there. You've got something that we call almost like industrial promoting, where it is just, you know, a set price and it's just churn them out, you know, run ads, etc. It's not necessarily building brand. But something like us, where it's like an independent brand, we're there to really build an experience and we're playing the long game. Yes, it costs us a lot more money up front, but we are playing that longer game. You know, we want to be here for multiple years, and it's just different models. Other sort of brands might have a high turnover in terms of like customers, different people coming, but we like to get a crowd, keep that crowd, build it, really build that community, and then keep on building and making the events bigger and better. And of course, you're always going to get natural progression of customers moving in and out of events, but that's what we try to do. But yeah, ultimately, like, the events industry is tough. Like, it's really, really tough, especially in the current economic climate. Customers not having as much money as they have in the past in order to, you know, go out and do events. But then you've also got everything costing a lot more from a promoter's point of view. And unfortunately, you know, if a customer then spends a lot of money, goes to an event, and it doesn't live up to their expectations or what they were promised, that then sort of rubs off on a lot of other promoters. And then it's like, we then have to work extra hard in order to prove, no, look, we promise the money you're spending is going to mean that you're going to have a good experience. So yeah, it's a tough market, but if you can get it to work, it can be very, very beneficial. You know, when you actually get there and once all's said and done and you're actually in the event and you see everybody there just having a good time, it does make the stress feel worth it. But getting into the events game, it's no joke. Like, there'll be a lot of stress. There'll be lots of curveballs, stuff that you didn't expect. If you keep at it and you keep tweaking and keep changing, just keep reinvesting, then you can do some really, really cool stuff. And ultimately, always put the customer experience first. That's the biggest thing. Always put the customer experience first. So if you've got any questions about events, promoting, etc., drop me a comment down below and I will reply to all of them. Might even flip one of them into a video for you. I think the topic is big enough for me to expand on. And if you can, I really, really appreciate you give a thumbs up for the video. Hit subscribe if you want some more, and I will see you next time.